Hi everyone, welcome to this next episode of Healthy Togetherness. Today we're going to be making pasta carbonara, and this episode is going to be a little bit different in that I'm going to be using a specialty piece of equipment. I really prefer not to use special equipment just to eliminate the excuse of saying I can't cook at home because I don't have such and such equipment. But today is really special in that my wife Roberta was able to get fresh eggs from a good friend of ours, and these eggs are from their, I guess, little farm, and it's only about, I would say, about a week old. So I'm really excited. I wanted to do something that really shows how special fresh eggs are, and so I decided on making pasta carbonara, and we're going to be making fresh pasta for that. Okay. First thing we're going to do is make the pasta. I would use about maybe 1 egg per person. There are going to be 3 of us at my house, so it's for my son, my wife, and myself. We're going to use 3 eggs. So these different colors. I'm going to use that one. I heard that one correct. So. I'm going to be making pasta for 3 people, and that's usually about 1 egg per person, right? And then we're going to vary the amount of flour, because depending on the size of the egg, even though the packaging of an egg says large, they're not all consistently large, or not consistently the same size. And so depending on the type of flour you're using, depending on how much moisture is in the egg, it's going to vary the amount of flour we're going to be using. Typical flour, all-purpose flour, we'll probably use about somewhere in the neighborhood of 3/4 of a cup of flour per egg. I'm using whole wheat flour for this, so that's going to be a little bit more absorbent. It's going to need a lot of moisture to hydrate. So we're going to start off with 1/2 cup per egg, and then we're going to build up from there, just to make sure that we're not putting too much flour for the amount of egg that we're using. We're going to start off with 1/2 cup of flour per egg, and then kind of build it up, because we want the dough to be not too wet, otherwise it's going to get sticky all over the machine, the pasta machine, right? And it's terrible trying to clean all that dough inside of a machine. But at the same time, if there's too much flour, then the pasta won't stick to itself, or the dough won't stick to itself, and it'll be crumbly. So we're going to start off with 1/2 cup of flour per egg, and then adjust it from there. So here we go. 1/2. 1. Okay, 1.5. This is whole wheat flour, but feel free to use all-purpose flour if that's what you have. Okay. So now 3 eggs. I'm going to crack the egg in this bowl just to make sure I don't have any shells. And then put it in. Alrighty. What we're going to do is just start it up. Now it's almost there. The dough is kind of is crumbly, but I can still feel that it's very moist. So we're going to add a little bit more flour. I'm going to start adding quarter cups now. So we're going to first do a quarter cup. Okay, so feels a little dry, right? But they're sticking together. See, it's crumbly, but they're sticking together. Okay. Now that seems to me a little bit too dry. So instead of cracking another egg, what we can do is add just a little bit of water to it. About a tablespoon at a time. Nicer, okay, much better. See how they're still crumbly in the machine, right? But when I push on it, they're sticking together, right? Now, if you want to play it a little bit on the safe side, make sure that the dough is a little bit moist, right? Because as we're going through the machine, as the dough is going through the machine, so long as the dough doesn't stick in the machine's machinery, we can always add more flour as we're rolling it out. But if it's too dry, it's much harder to add moisture to it. So to be on the safe side, err on the moist side, just not too moist, otherwise it's not going to go through the machine again. Okay, so all right, so this is good. I'm gonna stick with it. What I'm gonna do is take it out of here. Dump it in here. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and just kind of get it to come together. Now I'll just put it in some cling film. Okay, and we're going to let this sit in the refrigerator for about half an hour. And what's going to happen is the flour will absorb a little bit more of the moisture from the egg. Right now, it's only what's on the top of the flour that's getting all the moisture. So by letting it rest in the refrigerator for about half an hour, the entire flour is going to become hydrated. Alright, so this goes in the refrigerator. And we're done with this. Let me put some of this away, we'll clean up a little bit, and then we'll go into the rest of the pasta carbonara while we're waiting for the flour to finish hydrating. Alright, I've got my station cleaned up, the kitchen cleaned up, and yeah, just a little bit of a tip. When you're cooking, if you have a chance to just kind of clean up as you're going along, that's great. When I was going to my cooking class, my instructor told me that you know, I cook like I'm a tornado. It wasn't because of a compliment that says, you know, like I know what I'm doing, I'm going so fast. It's because I leave a devastation in my wake on my station. So anyway, clean up as you go along. All right. Next thing we're going to do is start making the sauce for the pasta carbonara. Right. So what I have here is bacon. Traditional pasta carbonara is made with guanciale, which is pork cheeks. Right? I couldn't find that at my local supermarket, so what we're going to do is use bacon. I would say about maybe 2 slices of bacon per person would be fine. In my household, we're going to do the entire pack of bacon, because my family likes bacon. I guess whose family doesn't, right? Okay, so bacon, because it shrinks, we're going to go ahead and cut these into nice big chunks so that we have we can see them. Alrighty, and we're going to put that in a cold pan over low heat so that the bacon fat starts to render, and you can cook the bacon up to whatever level of doneness that you like. Some people would prefer the bacon to be nice and crisp, others prefer it to be a little bit more tender, so I'm going to go with a little bit more tender for this. Okay, let me clean up one more time. All right, we have about 50 minutes left on the pasta dough hydrating, and we've got the bacon rendering over here. So high. Okay, so what we're going to do next, and this is not a normal part of the pasta carbonara, we're going to be poaching some eggs, which I'm going to put on top of the pasta carbonara. Again, that's an over-the-top type of part of the pasta carbonara, not normal. But again, I want to celebrate the fresh eggs that we just received, so I'm going to go for it. So we're going to learn how to poach eggs right now. So we're going to get into poaching in a little bit more detail later, probably in the next video. But this is kind of an introduction to you. Right. So this is how poaching water. I have the water to about, poaching is about 165, 160 degrees or so. Whoops. Alright. Okay. Now as you can see, there are no bubbles coming up. It's very different from boiling. Right? You have a little bit of speckled bubbles on the bottom, but it's not really aggressive. And that's perfect for poaching. Okay, so what we're going to do is poach 3 eggs, 1 egg per person. Put it in a bowl like that, and then lower it into your water. I normally start at the very top of the pan. So and then go clockwise when I poach eggs. That way I'll know which is the first egg that I put in, and I can take them out as I need to. So just lower it like that. Okay. I was kind of hoping that they wouldn't come together, but oh well, we'll make do. It's fine. Okay, now we'll set the timer for about 5 minutes. Right, and just let that go for about 5 minutes. And then what we're going to do when the 5 minutes is done, right, is we're going to take it out of the poaching water and put it in ice water. That way it stops the cooking process. Right? If you, at 5 minutes, the egg white, the albumin, is going to be nicely cooked, but the yolk is going to be very creamy. Right? If you wanted to cook it a little bit longer than that, so that the yolk is more cooked, go for 6 minutes. Right? But I wouldn't go too much longer than that, than 6 minutes, because then it'll be the yolk won't be creamy anymore. It'll be very solid, and you kind of lose the effect of poaching. Right? All right, we'll be back. All right, our eggs are done poaching. It's been about 5 minutes or so. So we're going to go ahead and take them out gently. All right. I'm going to put it in the ice water gently. One I forgot to mention, this water, this poaching liquid is just water. No salt, no vinegar. Normally you would see vinegar added to poaching water for eggs because it helps the egg white to coagulate a little better. And I just decided not to have it because I don't like the vinegary taste. Okay. Now, if you're doing this ahead of time, the poached eggs can be done the night before, put in the ice water, and then put in the refrigerator for the next day, for example. And then when you're ready to serve it, all you do is put it back in some warm water for maybe about a minute, just to warm it up before you serve it to your guests. Half an hour has passed. Our dough has gone out of the refrigerator, and it's taken as much water or moisture as available, but it looks like it's still a little bit too dry, too crumbly, and so when I try to put it in the machine, it's not really sticking together like I'd like. Right? So this whole wheat flour just needs a little bit more moisture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it back into the food processor, add maybe another 2 tablespoons of water to it, wrap it up again in the cling film, put it back in the refrigerator for another half an hour or so. All right. I'd much rather err on the side where there's more moisture in the flour, in the dough I mean, because as I'm rolling it out, I can always add more flour, but it's much more difficult to add moisture to it. So again, I'm going to go ahead and put it back into the food processor, 2 tablespoons of water, blend it, and then put it back in the refrigerator to continue hydrating. All right, be right back. Okay, we're back. I have our dough here. It's a little bit more pliable than before, less crumbly. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it apart into maybe halves or fourths. Okay. add flour to our board so it doesn't stick to the machine. Again, it's just terrible to try to get all this dough, sticky dough, out of the machine. It's just not fun. Alright. So our pasta maker here has got settings on the side here. It's got a little dial and it goes from 1 through 9 on my machine. It could be different for other machines. The one, it has got the biggest gap between the two rollers, and that's where we're going to start. Okay, and then as we continue to process the dough, we're going to go smaller and smaller. So here we go. That's just kind of a way to get the dough to be thin. Okay. See what I mean? Now we can add a little bit more flour to take care of the excess moisture. Fold it up. Few more times just to incorporate the fresh flour more into the dough. That's looking good. Next, we're going to go ahead and make the rollers smaller by changing it to the next level on your dial, number 2. Add a little more flour to it so it can stick. We're at the next level now, we're number 3. Four. No, that's still 3. 4, okay. Five. Now, once your pasta is becoming really long like this, we can cut it in half because it's only going to become longer. Just so it's more manageable. Okay, where are we at? We're on 5. Okay, so we're going on 6. And I think I'm going to stop there. That's pretty thin. Okay. Okay, and then what we can do now is we have another attachment to this pasta machine, which actually will help us make cut pasta. So we'll go ahead and cut this into portion sizes. Let's see. Say about that's all for a portion. Okay. And we just feed it this way. Oops. And what comes out over here is our fettuccine. Extra foil just to keep it from sticking to each other. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the pasta. We're going to make them into little fettuccine, right? And then we'll be back. Okay, we're back. I've finished making the pasta, and we have quite a bit of pasta here. Right? This is definitely going to be able to serve for 3 people. So I also have some water over here to put the pasta in. It's boiling and it's been salted. Now, one of the questions I often get is how do you know how much salt to add to your water before you put the pasta? And it's really very simple to do. All you do is taste it. Just take a little bit of the water after you salted it, and then try it. And then the water should taste something like sea salt, like seawater. Right? And what that means is it should taste salty, not overly salty, but it also should not taste bland, like it's under seasoned. You know, it should taste like it's well seasoned. Okay, so all we're gonna do is go ahead and cook the pasta in it. Now, this is fresh pasta, so it's going to take less time to cook compared to the store-bought pasta, or the dry pasta, I should say. Just get your tongue and toss it so it doesn't stick. This will take maybe about 4 or 5 minutes to cook. Oh, flower petal. How did that get in there? Alright, so that'll just keep it from sticking. Right. In the meantime, let's go ahead and assemble the rest of the ingredients. Our bacon is ready. Just going to go ahead and put that on a bowl where we're going to be mixing the pasta with lovely bacon. Okay. Okay. And then next we're going to take 3 eggs, again 1 egg per person, and we're going to just go ahead and scramble it in this container. And to that, we're going to add some Parmesan cheese. You can use any Parmesan cheese that you like. I just like to buy the brick type of Parmesan cheese as opposed to the ones that are already in canisters because I think they taste a little better. You can definitely take a small chunk and go ahead and grate it, or you can get another kind of grater. It's a grater. Get it? It's better grater. It's a grater. Anyway, going on. So you just put basically a chunk of cheese into this machine and crank out your cheese. This is also a great device when you're serving pasta because you can just leave it on the table and all your guests can have as much cheese as they want to. So it's a really nice, elegant piece of device. Okay. So we're going to add some cheese onto the eggs. As much cheese as you like, but not so much that it's no longer so solid. Okay. Maybe a little bit too much of a handful, but that's okay. That'll work fine. And then the rest we can sprinkle on top. And in order for it to be a carbonara, we have to have pepper. My understanding is the story behind the carbonara is this is like a miner's kind of a dish. The miners, the people who actually take the coals, for example, from the mines, and the carbonara is represented by, or the carbon is represented by the pepper. So I have to have the pepper in there. Okay, and we'll add some more onto the actual pasta dish. Now, let's see how we're doing here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and wait until the pasta is finished. When it's finished, we'll come back. Okay, our pasta is ready. I'm just going to go ahead and take it out of the water, drain it a little bit. Looks a little too much, so we'll just take some of it. Okay, first let's go ahead and toss it in the bacon. Now the challenge with making pasta carbonara is not to have the heat so high on your pasta that when the eggs are added to it, the egg doesn't scramble. You don't want that to scramble. So okay, so now we're just going to have to add a little bit at a time, mix it. And this is going to be a creamy sauce. Even though we're not using any cream, the sauce is going to be very creamy. The heat of the pasta is actually cooking the egg. So for those concerned that we're putting raw egg into this, the heat of the pasta is cooking the egg for us. Okay, you see how creamy I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but that sauce is very nice and creamy. I think we can add the rest of the pasta here. Okay. Alright, let's give it a try for seasoning. Maybe a little bit more salt. I was kind of hesitant to put more salt in while it was cooking because one, there was salt in the water that the pasta was cooking in, plus the bacon itself was salty. So I wanted to wait till the last minute to try it. Oh, and then of course there's Parmesan cheese, which also has salt. Okay, so that's actually really, really good. Okay, now let's go ahead and plate it. Okay, so we'll make one plate. Let's go ahead and add some of the pasta here. Okay. We'll go ahead and make a little hole in the middle, and that's where we're going to nestle the poached egg. But before we do that, we can add a little bit more Parmesan cheese on the sides, a little more pepper. If you really wanted to get nice and fancy with this, instead of having the grated cheese, you can also add take some cheese and just use the peeler, vegetable peeler. Just put it on the sides. Okay, like that. Now, we'll take, this is our poached egg. This is our poached egg that was in the water. Go ahead and get one. Turn it proper side up. Okay. Now, because this is a really, really fresh egg, all the egg white, all the albumin basically stayed together and it didn't spread all over the place. Store-bought eggs, because they're a little bit older, they'll have more of the egg white kind of hanging over or not really firmly attached. You can just go ahead and trim those off, and then that way it looks much more presentable. This is a cold water, so our egg is cold right now. Just go ahead and take some, this is hot water now. All you do is just submerge it a little bit for about a minute or so. And all we're doing is really just taking out the coldness out of the egg. Okay, and that's it. Okay. Maybe a little more cheese. A little pepper. And there we go. That's our little celebration of the fresh eggs that Roberta got from a good friend of ours. We've made the fresh pasta using the eggs. A sauce that we made is just the eggs and Parmesan cheese, and of course we went really over the top with the poached egg on the top of the pasta. Normally that's not part of pasta carbonara, but again we want to celebrate this fresh egg. So there it is. Okay, let's go ahead and give this a try. Now, the fun part about this is actually when you break the yolk and you have that creaminess going right into your pasta. Oh, awesome. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a little bite. See if I can get a bacon in there. There we go. That's delicious. Oh, it's just delicious. I love it. Alright, well thank you very much for watching. Hope you give it a try and let me know what you think. Right? Thank you very much for watching and we'll catch you next time.